Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Zane's View. This is a very rare thing I do. I don't normally do these videos, but one YouTuber, and I can't believe I can remember her name, Royal Broadcast. I don't know why I remembered her name, but I couldn't remember the guy from my TNA reviews. But this is something entirely different. This is something that I feel that needs to be stated, particularly for me personally. You see, I don't look it, but I'm mixed. I'm a mixed American. I have black, possibly Native American, Chinese, and Puerto Rican. As far as I know, I am Puerto Rican and black, but also supposedly have Native American and Chinese. I have a very varied heritage. But I did a video in December, around December 4th of 2014, that was, the black race is dying. Should we save it? Now, Royal Broadcast really did like the video, and she said, could you make another one? So that's what I'm doing. And this video is how to change the minds and hearts of black people. Now, this is a very hard thing to say. You see, let's be frank here, ladies and gentlemen. The black race, we know, is a big mess. They're constantly angry. They constantly feel like they're the victim. They constantly want things, but they also want to be felt like they have nothing. That's what the black race is showing itself and showing everyone else. So it's hard to come up with a way to try and solve this problem because, look, the NAACP and the National Action Network and any other organization that's for black people have failed to try and solve the problems of the black race in general. Not making sure they get equal rights. That's something entirely different. But to make sure the culture is treated better. In other words, the culture has to work properly for itself instead of causing so much trouble for itself. They failed. When it comes to those organizations, it's failed. When it comes to religion, it's failed. As much as people say you need to go to church and pray to God. Now, I don't follow Christian belief. I follow Native American beliefs. I've always been that way in my entire life. But I did grow up in a family that owned churches. I had several cousins. One cousin named Richard, blacker than me, a full black man, full dark skin, and he owned at least 2 or 3 churches, and he ran them himself. And even though they went under, he took care of them. He cared about his congregation. So it wasn't like I didn't grow up in Christian belief. I did. But when it comes down to it, when it comes to the organizations that black people created, they have failed to try and help the culture become better. When it comes to religion, it's generally failed to help the culture. When it comes to any social programs from the government, it's also failed. Well, it's going to fail because, as much as you guys don't want to hear this, Democrats are from the Ku Klux Klan. The Klan helped the Democratic Party. In the beginning, they did. The Democratic Party has been racist against black people since the beginning. I'm not a Republican, just in case you think. I'm an independent. I'm not for either party. Now, if anybody looked at my videos, you know I'm an independent. I believe Johnson, who was a libertarian from basically independence, should have won instead of Barack Obama. I believe McKinley, who was a black woman who went to the Green Party, she was a former Democrat. She should have won over Barack Obama. But that didn't happen. So when you look at this situation with the black race, everything that's been thrown at them has failed. There's more pregnancies. There's more shootings. There's more drug use. There is no respect for themselves. So how do you actually change their minds? How do you change their hearts? Well, I come up with 2 ways that could possibly work. But one is more radical than the other. And I know, and let's be honest here, there's no way that these 2 ideas would actually work because the government would never allow it and black people would never allow it. But essentially, if this could be done, there could be possibilities. The first one is how we're represented. Because it makes no difference about how we conduct ourselves It's our representation that's one of our major problems. The NAACP does not represent the black race anymore. The National Action Network from Al Sharpton doesn't recognize and respect the race or represent it. When it comes to Jesse Jackson, when it comes to Rangel, when it comes to anyone who's black who represents our people, and I can mention myself that being a mixed American. I can't say that. A mixed black American. I mean, my father was not black. My mother was mixed black. And he was Puerto Rican, but I can say I'm black. To a certain extent. I have it in me. Doesn't represent me. None of them do. Our president doesn't represent the black race either. As a biracial man, as a white and black Kenyan, he hasn't represented us that well either. As much as many people say he has cared more than anyone, he's hurt us more than anyone. Because he's shown his attitude as a Chicago black man, mixed black man, is representing how we act generally. How he likes to watch basketball. How he likes to be really showing off. How he wants to be on television. How he wants to be popular. He's shown more about wanting to be popular than doing his job. And as much as people are going to say I'm being disrespectful or I'm being prejudiced, I'm not. I'm saying what has happened. We've seen him more on The Tonight Show, SNK, and any type of show, along with his wife, than anyone other and any other president. Even Clinton didn't say and do so much as Barack Obama did on television. So none of these people and none of these organizations and religious situations have helped us. So what can we do? First thing, the NAACP needs to be disbanded. The National Action Network needs to be disbanded. Every person who has been a civil rights activist in the last 40 to 30 years need to be arrested and placed in prison. I state this because of all the controversy and all the times that they had some type of grand jury situation. They need to be arrested and thrown in prison immediately. No questions asked. They've already gone through the court systems multiple times and have escaped them. So they need to be imprisoned completely. And I know you're going to say that, what about our civil rights? A new organization can be formed that covers all civil rights for all races. It doesn't just have to be the NAACP. There are organizations that cover other races, but a general organization need to be formed. A united ethnic alliance to get rid of the NAACP, to get rid of the National Action Network, to get rid of Acorn. I believe that's his name. To get rid of them, all of them, to be disbanded. And for people who came from them who are known to have broken law as well, they automatically get thrown in prison. Next, when it comes to rap, as much as people love rap, for all the rappers who have broken the law, who have been found guilty, who have been in suspicions of murder for selling drugs, they need to go to jail. Period. And I know you're going to say this is so unfair. What do you want? Most of the music that they play talks about how much racism there was, how much drugs there was, how much they were happy to do the drugs or happy to sell the drugs. Look, when it came to Biggie Smalls, he said he was a drug dealer. He rapped talking about being a drug dealer. And as much as you want to say that shows how bad things were, well, we shouldn't be talking about them now. And most of those people had broken the law. So they need to go to jail. Period. We need to get rid of all the people with the bad influence. They stay in jail. They don't come out. There's no parole. There's nothing for that. They can be seen by their families, but they're not to be seen, period. Now, when it comes to politics, same thing. Every black person who has been found guilty of any type of crime but found a way to get out of it gets thrown in jail. Now, that sounds like I'm sending a lot of people to jail, but it has to be done. This needs to be done. People need to be gotten rid of. The only way to stop the cancer is to cut it out. And in this idea, The only chance you have to stop the madness is to get rid of the people permanently who's caused it. Now, I did say earlier that they deserve to see their families. But to be honest, the only way you can cut out the cancer completely is to not allow those people to have any contact whatsoever. But I thought that would be too cruel, because when it comes down to it, that will promote and continue the problem. So the situation would be that everybody who's caused all these trouble stay in jail for the rest of their life and never come out. And to show that those who do wrong must pay an ultimate price. And that's it. Now, here comes the more interesting thing that covers the streets. We know relatives who have done drugs. I've known relatives who have done drugs on my biological father's side, on my mother's side. I've seen them do drugs. I've seen my own half-brother do not cocaine, but heroin in my apartment and get high. And I was only a little kid at the time, maybe about 7 or 8. I've seen him stick the needle into his arm. So it's not like I haven't seen this type of situation. But here's the thing. As much as you say, well, I gotta have my family with me, he's my relative, I'm not gonna think on him, well, it has to happen. So when it comes down to it, for the people who sell drugs, the people who are part of the Crips, the people who are part of the Bloods, the people who are part of any gang, if you truly want to end the situation, every last one of them must be rounded up and thrown in jail, and they stay in jail for the rest of their life. And I know a lot of people are going to say, where are we going to store these people? There's always ways of finding a way to keep the people out of the public. But this situation has to happen. It must happen. If you don't, how the hell are you going to stop the problem? The problem for the youth is that they're going by the people who've been in jail. They emulate them. That's the problem. Emulation is the greatest flattery. But how the hell are you going to stop the problem if they're emulating the people that came from basically the jail? Because that's how this all got started. The people who got thrown in jail back in the 20s, the 30s, and the 40s created a culture that got filtered into the streets. And from there, that's what our entire culture is. It's a street mentality based on jail. And as much as black people don't want to say it is, it is. Because when you look at it, those who find God in jail do the exact same thing in the streets, in their own family. Those who find Islam in jail have done the same thing outside the streets in jail without getting in trouble. Those who learned the word nigger heard it not just in jail, but from their own relatives. So what is the difference? The jail is the streets. The streets are the jail. And then the jails go from the streets into your home. And this is what you got. So if you really want to solve this problem generally, we get rid of everyone that has caused this problem. And I know what people are going to say. Hey, what about those who learn from their lessons, who want to make up for it? Well, the problem is this. As much as there's one person that changes their mind, there are 10 that don't. So when it comes down to it, those who've been thrown in jail will never come home again. So that means that the people who get thrown in jail eventually live there for the rest of their lives. Now, the jail doesn't have to be a physical jail. They can actually just take them off the continent and put them somewhere else. Let them start over. Jail for them means banishment. And they're never allowed back into the country again. That's what my presenting of jail is. If you don't want to take their lives, because I don't want to see anyone die, but you don't want the people to go back into society again with the same attitude because you never end it, the best way is to banish them, to send them somewhere else and to start all over. Let them start all over. Now, that sounds like it's going to be a big mess, and it probably will be. But the general amount of situation is that for the small group that you separate, the ones that are left behind, who don't act like that, will finally straighten out the race. You can do all the programs you want, and you can do all the things in school you want, because they won't have the same influence. And the real black race will come out of it. Now, this is a cruel way to do this, but this is just one of 2 ways to do it. Now, here's the second one. Now, this is the more radical of the two. where most people would say, oh, you're doing segregation again. No, I'm not. I thought this for the Native Americans because supposedly I do have Native American blood, and a lot of people have said I look Native American even though I look Spanish. I thought that for Native Americans who were scattered around the continent, they deserved to have their own one large land. So I thought, what would be the best thing to do? Let them have one of the part on the continent that generally has the lowest population. Like Maine has the lowest population. Clear the people out and let them take that as their nation. So this is what I thought. I know this won't happen, but this is one possible way that could solve the problem of black culture and black hearts, the minds and hearts of black people. Let's say this, that a president realizes the situation is so bad that things need to change. So he decided that for all black people, all of them, not just regular black people, all black people, that means mixed blacks as well, that we would give you one state as your own country. 100% it's yours. For 30 years, we will help you prop up your economy. We will supply you with equipment. We will supply you whatever you need. For 30 years, we'll give you all the stuff you need. And after that, we're square. You're not going to starve. You'll have all the equipment you have. You'll have the National Guard help you to build your own military, your own police. You'll have doctors there to train your people if they haven't already been trained as doctors, as lawyers, as everything. If the people who go into that country are there, and if they don't have the skills, we can train the people to have the skills. And then, after about roughly 30 years, you're on your own. You'll have full representation from the UN. Your people would not have citizenship from this country. They would be completely banned. And if they wanted to come back, they would have to give up citizenship of your own country to come back here. Now, any children that are born from there, if they want to become American citizens, they can. They can have dual citizenship. Now, I know you're going to say, well, why can't we have dual citizenship? No. To really clean up the mess, every person becomes a part of it. And that hopefully would be generally 90 to 95% of all black people, that mix black people as well as regular black people. People like me, who's light-skinned, who's mixed with Puerto Rican, Native American, Chinese, but also black. Anyone who's mixed, if they also agree to go there, they give up all rights and citizenships. The new country will give you the rights and citizenships and identification. This would be your country. This will be yours. And you make it work. Either you sink or you swim. And in the end, we're not the one who's going to be causing you trouble. It's going to be all you. Now, there's a reason why I said this. And the main reason is that for this situation, the problem that black people generally have is that they're the most known of any race on the planet. Like I said in the beginning of this video, people are known around the world because of what we've done. And the only option that we have would be to no longer be known. So if we have our own country, we would be just like everybody else. Eventually we would fade away. And the only thing we would have left is not our popularity, which is generally the main problem we have. We're so popular, people want to emulate us. And that gives us power. Popularity does not mean we'll be better. It just means we're popular. There's a lot of problems American blacks have, but that's one of the major ones. That's why rap, baseball, football, and all that other stuff has become very popular because we have done it. So once we have our own country, we're no longer popular. And then we're going to have to deal with the problems that we created since the 1920s, which is the beginning of the 20th century. That we were so angry that we got treated so badly, that segregation is treated like this. We took something that we were forced to do. In other words, a lot of times, a lot of people were thrown in jail. We got pulled out of jail, and we took what we learned in jail, and we incorporated it into our society in the streets. And then that went into our homes. Now, under the situation of us living in our own country, that we own, that we control, that we patrol and defend, we would have to come to terms with what we once were. Because the street mentality will not work in a country like that, when there's no other races other than our own. Because let's be honest here, ladies and gentlemen, the reason that things work the way they are is because we have white people, we have Asian people, we have Puerto Ricans, we have Mexicans, and many other races. That is the reason why we get away with murder most of the time, and that's literal murder. Because there's so many different races that we can say that we blame that have treated us bad, particularly white people. We will never learn that the problem is not white people anymore. Not saying there's any racism still from white people or any other race. There's always going to be. The problem is our own attitude, our own minds and hearts. We still call ourselves nigga. It doesn't matter if many people say we don't use the word. It's still being used. It's still in use. So if we're no longer around any other race, we have to be forced to actually see how we truly act towards each other. And either we're going to sink or swim. And under the contract that no one could ever return, they would have to be forced to deal with it. Or forced to leave the country that they created. And I know that sounds still like racism and segregation, but we're not talking about white people throwing us into a small corner and telling us what to do. They're not. Anyone who saw what I just said, we will have our own military, we will have our own police force, our own government. Everyone in there will be black by descent. No white at all. It is only us. So, will we work? I don't know. It's no better than the one I said earlier about getting rid of all the people who have done wrong, who's murdered, who's killed, who's stolen, who's been through jail, who's gone out of jail. The criminals, the activists, all of that, getting rid of them. It's no better. Both of them are extreme ideas. Because there is no general idea to solve this problem. Because as it stands, we're the problem. Our own organizations are the major problem, and we're never going to get rid of them. Because they're black organizations. We don't get rid of black nigga stuff. I'm sorry for the language, but that's how many people talk. But this is just my point of view. How about you? So I hope you enjoyed the Zane's interview. Please give me a comment below. I do not do these often. This is a very rare occurrence. But what was her name again? Royal Broadcast wanted this. And I hope she likes it. It is very extreme. I know. I'm not going to lie about this. This is an extreme idea that sounds like it's not only stupid, but insane. But what are we dealing with right now? Chicago has hundreds of people dying every couple of months. Do you think this is any better? Have a good day and have a good night. Peace!